Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the Amateur Otaku podcast, the official anime podcast of Revenge of the Fans. How is everybody doing out there? This is one of your hosts, Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet Fan here, and as usual, I am accompanied by the one, the conniving, the mad pirate, Isaac Wolf. What's up, man?
Arr! You know what the favorite letter of the pirate is? You might think.
Yeah,
Okay,
see, you see that? That's how bad it was. You just stumbled upon yourself.
You might think that it's our favorite letter is R, but it's actually the C.
Wow. So let me get this straight. This is like the worst introduction ever, but I'm gonna leave it because it's amazing how you saw yourself stumbling upon the joke. Somehow you managed to stand up and fall even further.
It was the punchline of the joke, but anyway.
Hi, Isaac.
Also, do you know what's brown and sticky?
What?
A stick.
That's all, folks. That's our episode for today. It's been a pleasure. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. No. So, guys, welcome to the Amateur Otaku podcast. That is the most awkward and weird introduction we've ever done. But as usual, you guys come for great anime conversation, goodness, and madness, and we love doing it, don't we, Isaac?
Yup.
So, how you been, man? How's everything with you? What have you been watching? What's going on?
I've been watching a certain note. I have recently came out of Joker, and well, I'm also watched the subject material for today.
Nice.
Or should I say tonight?
Yes, it'll be awesome to talk about Joker, but that's a conversation for another day. We have a very interesting anime to talk about. And it's an anime that I know has been very popular for many years. I think that Isaac, you and I maybe appreciate it for very different reasons. But it's one of those suggestions that you put out there because, you know, you're our anime guru. And for episode 15, we're going to talk about the pirate slash underworld slash action packed overdose anime that is Black Lagoon. Isaac, if you were to present this to someone that knows nothing about anime or has never heard of this before, how would you talk about Black Lagoon? How would you present it in a nutshell?
What if you took Pulp Fiction and Serenity and you made it an anime, and the head chief of it was Quentin Tarantino?
Interesting. So do you think that if this could have been Quentin Tarantino's answer to anime? Is that how you see this?
There is actually I've heard people claim that the manga can actually take inspiration from Quentin Tarantino, and rewatching it now for the pod, I can't believe that, if that's the case.
Interesting. See, we haven't even started, Isaac, and you're opening a can of worms. You can't just drop that. Well, then again, I kind of put myself in a corner when I asked you to present Black Lagoon. I guess I did that all to myself, didn't I?
Exactly.
Oh, and you sound so pleased with yourself.
Why shouldn't I?
Okay, I'm sad.
Hmm.
But yeah, so Black Lagoon is this show about these pirates. They're of course called the Lagoon Company, and they do these jobs for multiple criminals or undercover or good organizations. They live in the gray of the criminal underworld. So they can either work as enforcers or they can work as um, messengers, or they can work as a shipping company. They are four very distinct, very different, very unique people. You have the leader of the Lagoon Company, which is Dutch, which we could say he's like an ex-military guy.
He is an
Um,
ex-military guy, considering he was a part of the Vietnam War.
yes, right, but he wasn't in the American side, right?
Yeah.
You have Revy, which is Tomb Raider on steroids, and with a
And
Quentin Tarantino-like humor to her, I think,
and
because
Deadpool's dream girlfriend.
that wow, did you say Deadpool dream girlfriend?
Yeah, dream girlfriend. Yeah, he would
So
love
that's
to. He would love her if he met her.
so
We
are you
both
up?
know that.
Are you gonna go ship net this now? Are you gonna start writing
Nah.
hashtag slash Gwen? Wow, I already started that wrong. Hashtag slash that Revy. Oh, that's worse. Revy pool. Hashtag.
No.
Hey, I'm trying. I'm really new to the social media stuff. Hashtag Brandon social. You see, I can't do it. I can't do hashtag. Hashtag no hashtags. Hashtag. Um. So Black Lagoon is wow. So I guess I'm bringing the madness today. Probably it's because I'm tired, but we're gonna have fun today. Just like actually, if I keep saying, you know what? So Black Lagoon. See, normally you interrupt me, so I'm just so scared of being interrupted by your madness that I'm just interrupting myself. And I think we've gone in a circle for at least a minute now. Okay, so Black Lagoon. So pirates. So we got Dutch, which is the leader. We got Benny, which is the computer wizard slash hacker, because any modern show without a man in the chair is, you know, not that modern show. Um, Revy, which is Tomb Raider on steroids slash hashtag Revy pool. Look, I did it. And then you have Rock, which you really don't know his real name. I find it really peculiar that he was just known. I mean, he has a last name, but you only hear it like in the first episode, and then you hear it again towards the end of season 2, because in reality, which identity is a big thing in this show, which I think that's one of the things that I mostly appreciated to a degree. Um, but his name is the name that was given to him by Dutch. I think it was Dutch that gave him the name Rock, right? It was Dutch.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to call him by his Japanese name. But yeah, you have this motley crew of people that just live their lives doing jobs for these different groups of people at different levels of the criminal underworld and not so good people. Um, but I think the biggest draw of the show is where they are located, where they live, and that is in the island of Raniper, which is considered to be a den of thieves, a city that is ruled by the underworld. And what makes this city so interesting is that it's not just like talking like about Las Vegas, where you have this city that is run by the mafia, but it's like a popular regular city. No, no, no. Every single person, every single corner in this movie is either a criminal causing or living off criminal activities out in the open, or as someone that is being preyed by criminals in the belly of the underworld. So which brings a lot of interesting questions about morality, about identity, about what is good, what is wrong. Because when you are in a world that's so dark, that's so deep in this lack of kindness, I would say, or lack of goodness, or evil doing. I have no words today. Um, when you have a place that its culture, its soul is so black or darkened because of murder, because of death, because um of of everything that's bad, sin, I think is what I'm looking for, to use a word that makes sense. Um, where do you find goodness? How does kindness survive? Is there light in the darkness? Can there be?
Yeah.
Um, and that's like the biggest question that is asked, of course, mainly by our main character, which is Rock, which is this fish out of water character.
And it's
Um,
easily the viewer slash reader's point of view character.
Correct. Which is why I find it so funny. Now that you mentioned that, um, we can segue into talking about the characters. Um, well, before we talk about the characters, um, it is a anime developed by one of the most popular production companies of anime, which is Madhouse, which everybody knows that is Madhouse has their name on it. It is normally a very good thing, a great technological or animated achievement. Normally, the story is very strong. And I don't want to say that Black Lagoon disappointed, but I would say that maybe where Black Lagoon shines is maybe not in the things that I maybe wanted it to shine. Does that make sense? So I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily I'm not it's one of these is one of those animes that has to be split because the things that it does well, but then certain things that I would have loved they would be more in depth or more into, they kind of just glossed over because they probably just focused more on the action stuff like that. But you can see how Madhouse, of course, does great mature animation, and this is definitely one of those examples where you see them thrive. Um, so that gives you that is a good glimpse of what is Black Lagoon, what it is based on. Um, it has this very interesting soundtrack that it sounds like a very hard intent of a non-English speaking person to sing pop metal songs in English, and it sounds not that great, but the beat is okay, I think.
I disagree. I like the soundtrack,
Yeah,
and we have somewhat of a different opinion about the story actually, but uh, that's what the pod is about.
that is what the pod is about. So we're gonna do a breakdown. We're gonna talk about a couple different things, but let's talk about the characters first. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the original one that you mentioned, the one that acts as the viewers and the readers' point of view, and that is the character of Rock. Isn't it interesting that in true RPG slash video game fashion, the main character of this story, that is, of course, the audience's step into the world of Black Lagoon, is a quote unquote blank slate character who a name is given to.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
However,
Uh-oh.
he gets some character developments along the way. Rock is sort of like how you put it. Like you say, it's a blank slate, but the more and more during the series, it's like his shell is like a cake. Mm, no, sorry, not cake. Like a
Shell. I don't. I if
shell.
you. I've never eaten cakes with shells.
It's what you rock is like you said, empty shell. But gradually over during the series, you have the shell just getting more and more water inside of it, and he becomes more and more of a character, his own character. You get
Right.
what I'm saying?
Oh no, 100%. I 100% agree, and it's and that's, I think it's one of the most, it's refresh, it's good for the show, and I do enjoy the his arc on the show, but at the same time, um you kind of feel bad that he is breaking, because you're probably like, this is one of those shows that if you expect the hero to win, this is not that show. This is not a show about heroes. This is not about a show about heroic things. This is a show that highlights the power and the influence of living in the underworld, and how, no matter how good you can be, how you can find yourself be broken, being influenced, being transformed to a degree. Like we probably don't see him do some of the quote unquote devastating things, like for example we see Dutch and Revy do throughout the show. But he maybe does things that could be considered worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so 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 yeah, in that aspect, in how Rock's character transforms, which I know that as we keep talking, we'll dig more into specific details of his
But
transformation. Um, I do
it,
say that's one of the highlights of the show.
but
Um,
it's that's one is one of the reasons that I think the Quentin Tarantino aspect makes sense, because he doesn't Tarantino isn't usually the guy that writes about heroes. He writes about anti-heroes slash villains instead, and you can, considering they are trying to, he, even though he gets to a breaking point, he
mhm,
still tries to do something good, like save, for example, at least one person,
mhm,
which
mhm,
we're later in the series.
mhm.
So he sort of becomes a point of view character to what I would argue a anti-hero.
Yeah,
Because he has some dirty ways to, yeah, at least, especially in the late last arc. Uh,
yes, yes. You see more of him there in season 3, definitely. You see more of his descent, I would say. Um, but yeah, so that's Rock, our main character. I think you should lead in our description and our thoughts on our Bullet Queen. You want to talk? You want to talk about Two Hands?
Two hands. Yeah, you mean the woman with extreme aggression problems and 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 like to shoot things.
Yes, yes, we are. Very short pants Tomb Raider.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, her character, I should put it. She's a bit aggressive, and
Hmm.
she isn't someone that likes have the conversation with the words. She prefers to be physical rather than sophisticated. Is that the
Hmm.
right term?
No,
But
definitely. Or maybe I would even say in the case of course, we're talking about Revy. We do find out her name is Rebecca, but everybody calls her Revy. Um, the thing about Revy, it's more than just the fact that she doesn't like talking, or we can assume is that nobody taught her anything different. She
no,
never learned. I mean, I'm gonna say her character, and I'm gonna say this, and this might probably get me booed, but please hear me out. I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound horrible, but hear me out first, okay? Her arcs is one of my biggest disappointments of the show, because you see so many different moments where you think that we're gonna dive deep into who she is, and what made her who she is. And then we always get the rug pulled out under her because there's something else going on. So we really don't know who she is yet. Like, we know what she does, we know how she reacts, we know how she does care about Rock and the Lagoon Company, but everything is like glossed over. Like, there's so much. Maybe it's because on purpose she is to be viewed as this hothead, two hands, murdering psychopath, whatever. Which is why she's perfect for hashtag Revipool. Um, but I'm not gonna let that go. But at the same
Of
time,
course you won't.
no, I will not. But at the same time, um, it kind of makes you, as a viewer, it kind of makes you accept that she doesn't have depth. But they're kind of teasing us with the fact that she does have depth, but they don't go there. So that made me very sad.
My my question about that, I sort of see what you mean, but I still think there is some subtle hints about it which helps the character, so to speak. We're
Hmm.
seeing some flashbacks that is pretty much a show don't tell that I think works in terms of the concept of the story.
Yeah, yeah.
It works into how they execute the anime, but it also excuse my Denmark, but anyway, but it also could be that this show, for example, it doesn't have. For those that don't know, this manga has been on a 6 years hiatus and just recently continued in spring this year. So some of the concerns that instant plug for the story break here, but that Brandon had could be because of that the anime hadn't adapt as much as it might have needed because
Mm.
the manga wasn't finished or hasn't continued far enough.
I mean, that could be true. That could be true. Um, but yeah, if that's the case, I would love them to do more, and I would definitely see it because um, I do like the character. I did enjoy the character of Revi. Um, Surprisingly enough, I think I'm married. Revi reminds me of my wife, but that's a different story. Um, and no, my wife is not a master with two hang-ons. Um, but yeah, it kind of that's one of the characters that I wanted to enjoy more. Like, for example, some of the episodes that I mostly enjoyed with Revi, where the was the final arc in season two, where Revi and Rock go to Japan, and like it had to be an arc like that where most of the attention was focused on Revi and Rock, that we had to forget about Dutch, forget about Benny, forget about everyone in Runaport. Like, we had to eliminate so many factors from the equation just to be able to focus on Revi, but at the same time, we don't go that deep. Like, we do see hints like Revi does have a certain liking beyond friend with Rock, but like she doesn't allow herself to feel that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't allow herself to be intimate with others, and we kind of see a little bit because she has a very troubling childhood and upbringing, and she was the victim of abuse and a lot of those things, which makes sense in her not necessarily not makes sense with her not seeming like a person that would pursue an intimacy with a male figure. um but yeah, I want to see more of Revi. If you give me more Revi, I think I would be a lot happier. But with everything, with 3 seasons worth, and I still feel that I don't know her as much as I want to, that's why it kind of leaves me sad. Does that make sense?
But I think they do tap in. So as I mean, I think the flashbacks makes her justice, even though I think
Oh yeah.
Considering the contrast of what the story wants to be. Because if they, how should I put it? If they were more serenity, so to speak, that it went to planet instead, but in this case, country to country, then I could see them doing more of character studies of each in every crew member, but it's because what they're trying to do is that they have sort of like subtle hints on what the characters are. For example, now I forgot my thought, but you get what I mean?
No, I completely agree. Maybe I'm just being greedy because maybe in my heart of hearts, I enjoy the character of Ruby so much that I wanted to. It's like she's one of those characters that I want to mourn with her
Yeah.
story, but I'm not giving a chance to because I don't get enough of it. And maybe I'm in the minority, but like I'm one of the idiots. I'm one of the idiots that would sit down through 10 episodes of backstory during Naruto Shippuden because a lot of it was so good. I maybe wanted a whole season just about Revi, how she got how she got the handguns, or like I would pay for the prequel series of Revi and how she ends up with Dutch. And like because for example, there's so much history there, like especially in season 1 where Dutch and Revi practically invade that Nazi ship and how they pretty much finish them all off. There's this scene where Revi's like quote unquote losing control, and you can see how Dutch pretty much is able to leash her in. Like that little thing there shows that these two characters have a lot of history together, but you really don't see that. You know
That's
what I mean?
why. That's why I think. That's why I mentioned the whole 6 years hiatus. It could easily be that the mangaka wanted to cover that later in this series. Yeah, it's like it because they are doing, like you saw in the show, they are doing some subtle hints and
Mm-hmm.
subtle comments about their story or backstories throughout this season, and the mangaka perhaps want to dive more deeper and deeper in
Right.
throughout instead of just going boom. Here you go. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
No, yeah, and you know what? You're right. Maybe I'm just greedy. I want it now, Isaac. I think that's what it is. I want it now.
I want it now, and
You
I
have a
want it now.
you have a song for everything, don't you?
Uh,
So that's Rock. That's Trevi. Let's finish the big characters. I think that are the most interesting ones. So we got Benny, which is our computer whiz. There's not much backstory to him. I mean, he talks how he was on the run because he did the bad stuff for someone and he ended up with Dutch. He's like the lighthearted person, but it's interesting how he is kind of what Rock chooses not to be. Like could be if Rock could decide to ignore his surroundings, he would be Benny. Which is why I find it so interesting how Benny is kind of there to to make to make the character of Rock stand out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because Benny does not care at all. But then you see this character because Benny doesn't kill people. He doesn't pull triggers. All he does is information, and all he does is do whatever Dutch asks him to do. That's all he does. Um, and he's happy with his life. He's happy with his computers, but he does recognize all the bloodshed that happens on the hands of Revi and the Dutch, what they have to do to survive, the darkness and the sin or whatever. I'm trying to find a different word, but all the madness in Ranapur he recognizes how they live in their little corner of hell, practically. But he is the pure definition of ignorance is bliss.
Pretty much.
Where Rock isn't. Rock can't ignore, because Rock is that fish out of water that's fresh from this world where there are rules, where there are moralities, or the rules are based in right and wrong, where the rules in Ranipur, which is the city of criminals, is not based on right and wrong. It's based on who says is the right, who says, who has the more power, who has the more money, and they make their own rules, whether they're moral or immoral, or have to do, or they're mad and crazy. I don't know. Anything else you want to say about Benny? I mean, I don't. He's like a non-character to a point. Like when he's funny whenever he's on screen, but so I mean, I got nothing else on Benny. You got anything?
Nope.
Okay. I know you like Dutch because the way you were talking about that character before and off the air, I can tell that you like the character. I like how he deems himself like a philosopher. He's always reading all these like he's like the old war vet that doesn't care and just survives. Like he kills who he needs to kill. He delivers the message he needs to deliver. He gets the package. He gets the job done, no matter what it takes. And he doesn't think about right or wrong. He just does the job.
He does have some form of code that, like, don't kill, don't kill more than necessary for the job, for example.
That's true. That is true. But then again, he kills what's necessary.
Yeah,
like he doesn't. He's not without. Yeah, he's not there to make a disaster, which is what happens in the same scene that you were. Like, I think your comment about only what's necessary goes back to that scene that I was discussing with Revy, right?
Yeah.
Where Revy was kind of pretty much losing control, and like he's not one. What?
Or in the first, when you're introduced to them, when she's going batshit insane, and he is, what the heck are you doing? Kind of moment, just to show off that he's one of the people that, well, quote unquote, know how to stop her.
Right. Which I would like to know more for. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop asking for more, Isaac. But yeah, Dutch is like the man that wants to think of himself as a good man, even though he's at the pit, even though he recognizes that he lives in hell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like this kind of double standard, like this honorable man in the midst of chaos. That was way more poetic than I thought. You should record that. But yeah, that's who Dutch is. It's so funny how he's like, one moment he's drinking beers and just talking about how he's gonna do the job and gonna get it done, and now he doesn't care about right or wrong, and then he's reading The Art of War and like discourses by this diplomat, and I don't know, he's a very interesting character. Which is why I find it so interesting how he's the one character that whenever Rock is having a morality crisis, he is the one that listens to Rock and either tells him there's nothing you can do, or he goes like, you know what, you have a point. Or towards the end of the series so far, of course, with season 3, he goes like, he's the one that starts freaking out. Like, what the hell is Rock doing? because he is like that. He's like the unmovable object. He's like the one that we know how he's going to react to a degree. And Benny just follows what he says. But I would even say that the most interesting characters are, apart from Revy and Rock, the most interesting character is Balalaika.
Yeah, I would never want to piss her off. That's for sure.
Hell no. and she's like a Swiss Army knife of
Uh,
Soviet craziness.
Soviet Russia.
Soviet Russia. Um, Hotel Moscow, the Russian Mafia, Balalaika. What a fantastic character. The voice actress does a fantastic job. The arc, like, see, that's one of the things that I kind of like was saddened on the show is that you get more depth with her character than you do with Revy. You know what I mean? Like you get a lot more of her, and she's not even a main character. But then again, I am happy that I got as much as I got from Balalaika because I loved her character. She's one of my favorite characters of the show. But I want more of Two Hands. And there I am. I think this is the one episode that I've whined the most for more. And I apologize because I haven't stopped whining. But Balalaika. Yes, he's super interesting. Her story is super deep. She is a disgraced war hero that wanted to do the right thing for her country. Practically, her country betrayed her and betrayed her army. That's why she decides to literally create a country of her own because that's practically where her story is. Hotel Moscow is like her own country that she can rule, defend, and protect. I like how every time they talk to her and talk about her or talk about her army, they make it like, oh no, she has her own private army and she's ready to save the world in World War III. Like like she's like this. They treat her like this mystical figure. Which when push comes to shove, what you find out about her is that she is this ruthless criminal mastermind because of all her extensive military training. Um, and some of the most interesting and scary moments in the show, she is included in one way, shape, or form because what she is and the character of Shang, which is another fantastic character, which is the Yakuza or triad leader, um, triad actually leader. They're like the law of Ruanapur, and that's why we see a lot of them. And the Lagoon company gets a lot of missions from them. Um, what do you like about Balalaika or Shang? I like the fact that Chang, surprisingly, the little scenes that we see of him, I love the fact how we find that Revy looks up to him because he's like so badass that even Revy goes like, "Damn man, you're awesome,"
Yeah.
which is funny because you're talking about killing people.
He sort of if Han Solo uh, were in a general position and not just a stray dog like it always is.
Agreed. Agreed.
Also, random trivia. Guess who the English voice actor for Rock and Benny are?
Who?
Brad Swale does the voice for Rock, aka Light from Death Note, and Brian.
Keep going.
And the one voice of Benny is the original voice for Vegeta.
Oh my goodness. You know what's funny? You say as soon as you said that Rock plays that the voice actor for Rock is the same voice actor for Light Yagami,
The
it
English,
clicked.
for example.
No, but it clicked. The voice is the same. But it's so funny that you say that because as soon as we were talking about Rock's descent into not into madness, but his descent into his new criminal identity or whatever it is, um, it reminds me of Light's descent, which is of course the magic of Death Note, which is a show that we'll talk about very very soon, if I may announce it inappropriately right now. Hashtag storybag. And calm down. which Death Note is known as the ultimate story of someone spiraling to unstop in a never-ending spiral towards eternal darkness until he actually dies a full-fledged villain. Like Rock doesn't really go all the way, but there's a lot of it here.
Yeah, we should continue with the Russian mafia boss. That was his.
What do you have? What do you think?
That even though she's said to be a older woman, I would never piss her off because it would basically be like asking for no mercy, if you know what I mean.
Oh, dude, she has more strength in her left pinky than I do in my whole arm, bro. Yeah. Like the way she lifts, she can lift a man, even though he looks kind of skinny, but he can lift a full-grown man with one hand and hold. Like she's like, I don't know, man. She's an anime character.
Yeah, but pretty much.
She is super powered. She's scary. But that's one of the things that I enjoyed about her, and that's one of the things that I also found interesting about the show with characters like her, and you see it when we talk about Roberta, when we talk about the Vampire Twins, when we talk about Yukio, the swordsman. I don't remember his name. Is that a lot of these criminals that are at the top of their game or are leaders of a group, they're treated or they're portrayed with a sense of mysticism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I think that's where this show is interesting and very poetic, because even though these are the people responsible for some of the most atrocious moments and scenes in the entire series, they are treated as these as these beings of legend. It reminds me of John Wick. Whenever they talk about him, he's Baba Yaga. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
Like in the underworld, you talk about mafia bosses as if they were nightmares or fairy tales. Their actions have made them into legends, and every time you see them on screen or in a panel, you feel that's what's happening. Like they're never treated or portrayed as a real character, as a real person. There's something more than that. Especially every time you see Balaika with her faithful sergeant, every time they call her Capitan, like everything is, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's very interesting. What'd you get from that?
Yeah, it's certainly I agree with you that there are sort of John Wick-esque moments where they are talking about characters like they are boogeymen. For example, when there is a hit job that bad guy is having on a girl where Ravi and her friend Ada is protecting, and the assassins get to know that those two are protecting her. Then, but the cost for that job is gonna way more expensive, buddy.
Right.
For example.
Yeah, that's in season 2. That's with Greenback Jane was her name, the one that was making the fake. Yeah, that was actually super awesome. Like, especially when you have the character of quote unquote the one that Revy calls Chinglish.
Oh, you mean Senhua?
Yeah,
I think I pronounced that right.
Which he is like a Soul Calibur character, completely out of place, but hilarious though. Like, and I love Revy's interaction with her, because Revy, being a Chinese American, treats her like the Chinese stereotype, and the voice actress treats her and talks her and uses her as a Chinese stereotype as well, especially the way that she heightens the accent of a Chinese person talking English. I found it was a very interesting artistic choice.
The her character is one of the reasons that I actually prefer, and I think a lot of majority of people I've seen prefer the dub, because one of the main thing about her is that she's commented that my English isn't perfect because I'm true Taiwanese, and I proud of a heritage, and if you have that line and she claims to speak English, it doesn't work the same. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because speaking of the dub and sub, we should have an episode of how scripts can how a dub and subscript can change the general gist of a plot, but that's for another story. But
that would be very interesting.
But yeah, her interaction with the interaction with the Shinona and Brave is pretty funny. But my personal favorite interaction is with her Ravi and Ada.
Oh yeah,
the fake nun that is sort of portrayed like her best friend. They are like
the slash nun slash nun slash CIA agent slash con artist slash exact replica of Revi, but
I wouldn't call exact replica, but
no,
they have similar traits. They have similar traits, that for sure.
No, but that's what I mean. Like they're two sides of the same coin. Like Revi is more the criminal. Like there are two different kinds of criminal, but they could be the same person playing different roles. You know what I mean?
Brave is sort of like charge, and Ada is just relax. It will all work out.
Yeah, like Revi's more of the soldier. She's more of, and then Ada is more of the schemer. You know, their interaction is actually pretty nice. I actually really enjoyed how they understood what, like, the author understood what he had in his hands when he got those two characters together, and we started getting those sessions of them playing poker. So you have these two characters. That's how crazy this world is. These two characters are playing poker and gambling and drinking booze at the altar of the church that, of course, is used for contraband. But apart from that, yes, Ada.
And they in one scene they discuss what weapon the person in the Bible would use, and it's just like they're talking about it like in such a how you and I would discuss video game, so to speak. It's which is just weird, but it fits their character pretty perfect.
And you know what? Now that you mentioned that, like their interaction about, like the way they talk about the criminal, what we call the criminal world, what we call weird or unsavory transactions, for them that's normal life.
Yeah.
And just like we talk about going to the grocery store, they talk about getting ammo because they got to shoot these guys and stuff like that. And the way this show normalizes that style of living, and how it's a mixture of most characters accepting this as reality and Rock freaking out about how this can be reality, is kind of like the best moments of the show. But at the same time, it's interesting to see, if I can go into this scenario, is how this show, and this is why I personally like the interaction, or at least how the characters of Rock and Revi develop around each other, is that on one side you have Rock, that is trying to stay good, is trying to save people, do the right thing, but slowly descends into madness. You have Revi that lives in this madness, kind of accepts it, but also wants out, but knows that she can't have an out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she kind of wants what Rock is refusing to have, but he thinks he can't have it anymore. But Revi's saying no, you can go, like especially towards the end of season 2, which is why I like that season so much. How Revi would insist, go home, your house is right there. But then when Rock recognizes how much he has changed already, he understands that he can't go home. He can't go back. And like Revi, just like we use Rock to understand this criminal underworld, Revi was kind of using Rock as a symbol of maybe I can go back to a normal life. Maybe I can live a life without killing, without doing what I do. Um, and that's when you start seeing that fight between those two ideals that Revi has. I think that's where her character is the most interesting, because it's not that she had what Rock had, is that she never had it. So she doesn't know what it is to live a good life. She doesn't know it. She never had a chance of that. Um so so yeah.
Also, she is also the character that how should I put it? Ada, that is. She's
Mhm.
also somewhat of the character that how should I put it? Teases her for the obvious things that that you mentioned earlier in the episodes, and that makes Revi mad at her, so to speak.
Right, because Etta is the person that kind of sees through the veil of Revi's sadness. Like she kind of see that Revi does, like maybe like Revi I mean Ada teases Revi with how, like, having a relationship with Rock, because she kind of notices that Revi does want that. Like Revi does want to be happy in that way, but doesn't allow herself to be. So Ada is the person that teases her. And we all have that friend. We all have that friend that goes like, "Hey, you're going to ask her out," or "Hey, are you going to go see this movie?" or "Hey, did you write that script?" Like you always have that friend that teases you and kind of like messes with you in that way, but not because they want to be annoying, but because they know how much we want that thing. You know what I mean? Like they know how much we
Oh,
want.
sure. Though have I know a couple of people that was the same to me
Hmm.
a few years back. So
Yeah. So there you go. Perfect friends in the underworld. Ada and Revi. Solo series in Chibi form. No, so do you know that I'm not the first person to probably say that? Somebody has thought of that somewhere.
probably, probably,
Trademark.
probably.
You want to talk a little bit about the guest or special characters of the show?
You mean no, what special character are you talking about? The Killer Maid?
Wow, look at you, king of subtlety. Yes, let's talk about
I'm
Roberta.
all I'm always subtle, even when I'm not.
As subtle as a hammer. So
Exactly.
um, so yeah, so the killer maid, Roberta, aka the Bloodhound, or in the best description I've ever heard in an anime, to quote Dutch, to quote Dutch. Didn't you hear Rock's description of her being like a killer robot from the future?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, dude.
that's that's pretty good description of
Yeah,
what she is.
yeah. She's a freaking Terminator. That's freaking insane.
Calling her a Terminator is an understatement.
Yes.
I mean,
But you gotta admit, every time I saw her running, I was waiting for the soundtrack of T2. Ding 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 ding.
that was especially in the last season when it's focus off for him. You just see that here. Yes, yeah, oh, yeah, wow.
Well, but that's the thing though. It's funny how on our first encounter with her, she is full on like Terminator. Like they're going hard on this 90s version of a Killer Stepford version of Terminator. Um,
That's an understatement, my friend.
and then they go full on this. And then the final battle between her and Revy, it's interesting how they kind of tried and do like a Dragon Ball Z final battle. And it kind of doesn't work, but it's fun though, especially when they finish the battle with their fists because Balalaika, aka Hotel Moscow, aka Big Bad Russian Capitan, stops the battle. But I feel that some of that mysticism of the Bloodhound is taken to the extreme in season 3. Well, of course, Roberto's Blood Trail is like that big arc just about her, technically. But like we see a different side of her character that is so out there, so extreme, so interesting. That kind of explores. It's a very interesting look at PTSD and how,
Yeah,
yeah, and
and
how these characters that have lived life because of war, because of ideals, and how their lives shift. It's and how her world is broken after she went good, because technically her world got destroyed when they murdered her master, to say the least. Um, but how she goes out of control, um, how she ends up, um, I don't know. It's a very 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 tragic story.
yeah, she's a very tragic character.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like those scenes where she starts seeing the people that she murdered and stuff like that. Those scenes like that, how she's overdosing on pills, like it's a very very raw take about what real people go through, especially people that have been through wars, that have had to take lives, that have to done all these things. Um, for That's one of those things that I do appreciate about the show, about this anime, is that all the action, all the pain, all the blood, but also all the pain, all the trauma is handled from a very real place. You know, there's no magic, there's no fantasies, there's no fairies. It's only real stories that make sense. That you could assume that, you know what, this could happen, this has happened, which I could say is something that I could appreciate for it.
yeah, and how can sorry, and yeah, you kind of have a point with the Dragon Ball scenario that with their first encounter because yeah, but it's a typical Dragon Ball thing that no, I'm gonna win. I'm not gonna win, but they're knocked the both out, and I would argue that they did that probably because the author wanted to use her later on, and
Mhm.
also for comedic effect, if you know what I mean.
Oh, it was hands down, but also it was like one of those moments where you could understand how big of a character Balalaika was.
Exactly.
Because like I think this is like that end of season 1 was the first time that we actually saw how strong her reach was in Raniper. Like she has an army that she can make things happen or make things not happen. Like that's who she is. You know what I mean?
To give a perspective that we might have missed with her,
Mm-hmm.
her army is the soldier that followed her during a war, and they follow her to the end of the line. So it's not just that she has recruited soldiers. She has her previous
Exactly. Yes. People that are loyal to her, not because she pays them.
But because they have served under her, and they know this.
They know the kind of leader that they're following.
And she's a very effective leader, that's for sure.
Oh, yes, she is. Oh, yes, she is. Oh, yes, she is.
But going back to Roberta, like you said, she is hands down one of the. If there is, I would almost call her the most tragic character in the entire series. Actually,
I would agree.
Even more so than the likes of Revi. Yeah, although she's an extremely tragic character, that's for sure. But how much should we mention of her backstory without spoiling it?
Well, I think what would be correct to say is that one could even say that Roberta is Revi if those people like Dutch and Rock were taken away from her. You know what I mean? Like she could evolve.
She ended up
right.
She ended up like that.
Correct.
She's Revi at first if she got a second chance.
Correct.
I would say, but slowly ended up as if Revi lost Dutch and Rock.
Right. Because interestingly enough, even like we don't see her become the full bloodhound till season 3, where whatever happens with her master happens. Like the times that we see her like trying to rescue Garcia, which is the young master, she's always very restrained. Like you can see that Roberta is in control, which what we see later on is that she's not. You know what I mean? I mean, so to speak.
She's as controlled as she can be.
Right. But yeah, she's a very interesting character.
And can we also agree that season 3 has the most brutal and pain-inducing to watch crotch shot?
Literally.
To quote it from Swedish to English, "Ooh, that gotta hurt." Totally flinched when I saw that on podcast.
Oh, trust me. Everyone and their mother flinched. Yeah, that was pretty brutal. Any other special characters like Roberta that you want to highlight?
But she's easily one of the best written character of this anime.
Yeah. Personally, let's talk about a favorite arc. Before we start closing out shop, because I think we've talked a lot about the show and enough to get people interested or have an idea of what it's about, but not too much that we're giving everything away. Because it's not a long show. It's I think it's 12 episodes a season, roughly?
No, let me check Netflix.
Well, I know that it's a total of 29 episodes, the whole thing. And I think the first season is like 12, the second season is like 13, and then the last season is 5. I know it's something like that.
I just put it on Netflix and just watched it through, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's something like that. It's like almost a total of around 29 episodes. So it's not that long of a show. It's a show that you can enjoy in a couple of days if you binge it. What was your favorite arc? What was the arc that you enjoyed the most?
Outside of the season 3 with
yes.
Roberta.
Yes.
It was the second season when they were hired to
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 translate.
transport the document, because that with the gorilla that they fought and all that.
Oh, you mean where they have to transfer a document with the gorilla? Like I think that's the first arc of the second season. That's where you mean Shinglish for the first time.
Yes, that
Okay.
the
Okay.
Roberta and the Roberta arc, and that arc is the favorite one. The Roberta arc because of the character development,
Mhm.
and the document arc is because, well, it's the more funnier one, especially when they're rescuing Driver
Yeah.
when they are getting out of there and transporting in South America, because honestly, that is one type of character that I could easily see myself writing. You know what I mean? Yeah, but and I'm just, what, what,
Yeah.
what? And me and my sis just sat there laughing my ass off whenever, or should I say during that, because of him. We have some weird sense of humor. Okay.
That sounds like very good sense of humor, in my opinion. My favorite arcs were the Greenback Jane arc and the final arc in season two, where Revi and Rock visit Japan to be translators for Balalaika. I like those arcs specifically because it's where you see the most of Revi in a different
Yeah.
place, in a different angle, in a different, like you kind of even see her maybe trying to be intimate with Rock in a different way. And of course, I'm not mean physically. It's just in the way that she reacts and socializes with him. Um, I personally really liked the wardrobe they gave her um, for that arc. And also the Greenback Jane arc, I like it because the whole madness of, see, that's where I could say this whole madness of Etta scheming to contract everybody to capture Greenback Jane and the whole thing. That whole 3-4 episode arc played like a Tarantino movie. I think that's the most Tarantino I've seen in that I can glean from. Does that make sense? Especially that arc in particular.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot. Um, I don't know. You want to go ahead and rate it and start closing this shop out?
Easily an A.
See, talking Black Lagoon with you, I kind of understood that I liked it a lot more than I thought. Damn it, Isaac. But I
Mm,
can't give it an A because I feel that this show left me wanting more. But it didn't leave me wanting more. Like you know how you have a good show that you want more, but you be okay if you don't see any more. You know what I mean?
yeah,
This show left me wanting more, but it left me wanting too much. So for that, I'll give it a B plus. Fair.
that's that's totally fair.
So you have it. Well, you're overseas. You're in Sweden. You have Black Lagoon on Netflix, correct?
Yep, I have it on Netflix.
I was able to watch Black Lagoon on Hulu, and I was able to watch Black Lagoon, Roberta's Lost Blood Trail in Funimation because I know it wasn't in Crunchyroll and it wasn't in
It is on
Netflix in the
Hulu.
States.
It's on Hulu also.
Yeah, so I did enjoy myself. So here at the Amateur Otaku, if we combined our grades, I would think that we can give this show an A minus if we
Yeah,
combine both our grades. So that was awesome, man.
yeah. And
Um,
I and so you see, I managed to make you understand that this show is much better than you first felt. Because I am a mad doctor, after all.
So that's all. That's all we got. Anything else you want to add about Black Lagoon, Isaac, before we say goodbye for the day?
It's just it's a wonderful show. It's a character piece and an easy breeze to watch, where you can study the complexity of a young person's life in a normal society.
That's everything this show is not. Wow, that's I for some reason now I feel that the conversation we just had never happened. I think that's the best way to end the podcast, where we completely disregard everything we just talked about with one sentence.
You know, I'm mad.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But yeah, Black Lagoon is we give it an A minus. It is a good time, great action show. It's light on some of the character study, but when it actually goes into studying the characters or into the psyche of the characters, is a very interesting portrayal of people trying to be good in a place where darkness rules, where evil rules, where criminals rule. Um, and how some people to try to do good end up doing horrible things because sometimes that is the only way to maybe try and do good. Nobody wins in Raniper, nobody wins in Black Lagoon, but there's plenty of action, plenty of booze, and two hands is great with guns. I think that's Black Lagoon in a nutshell. What do you think?
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us in episode 15 of the Amateur Otaku podcast. We have a lot of great stuff in store for you guys. We have plans for the next couple of episodes. We are talking with our good friend Landon from Storybake to talk with us about Death Note. We have our good friend from the Play It Loudcast and from Rob Moreira VO, Rob Moreira himself. We are planning a very interesting Halloween themed episode where we'll be talking about the amazing, the dark, and the bloody, but awesome Hellsing Ultimate anime OVA. And we are also planning on talking and watching a very creative. Okay, you can hear Isaac going mad. Isaac's dream is coming true, and we're gonna. Isaac, are you gonna let me announce it?
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about Gynax's Debt Leaves, which is TV people and weird drills. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else. Something tells me that episode will be kind of explicit, but then again, what isn't these days? But we have a lot of great stuff in store for you. So if you enjoy what we're doing here at the Amateur Otaku podcast, please take a minute and share it with people. Share the podcast with other people. Share the podcast on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to it. Give us 5 stars. But more importantly, if you're an Apple Podcast, leave us a 5-star review. If you enjoy what we are doing, if you enjoy what we're doing here for RTF and for the anime fans out there, if we're talking about stuff that you find that nobody else is talking about but you enjoy, please let us know via a 5-star review or an email at amateurotakurtf@gmail.com, or you can speak to us on Twitter at amateurotakurtf. Now, let's talk about us. If you want to reach us directly, I'm Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet Fan. You can find me at Twitter at the Scarlet Fan 52. And Isaac, where can we find you and your madness?
You can find me at Emblemaniac with a C, and where you all will notice how Fire Emblem is love, Fire Emblem is life.
Because I can't say that I agree with it, but go Naga. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up in the Rise of the Amateur Otaku. A lot of great stuff I know there's going to be happening with a bunch of the fans over the next couple of months. And I do want to give a shout out. He doesn't know I'm going to do this, but Isaac, I'm going to put you out on blast here. Isaac has been doing awesome reviews of video games and movies lately at Revenge of the Fans. There's an awesome review on Nintendo Switch's Astral Chain online and a great review on Brad Pitt's at Astra. He's doing a lot of awesome reviews for the site, and he has a very good, keen, interesting view of these particular games as a very experienced gamer and big proponent of the Nintendo Switch. So if you're looking into these great consoles and games, keep an eye out because you might want to hear Isaac's opinion. He may be the one that will nudge you either into getting or not getting a game. And you're working on another review right now, Isaac?
Yeah, I'm working on other reviews.
Nice.
I'm currently waiting for the approval of the Link's Awakening review. I'm currently working on the Dragon Quest XI review, and that game is just not ending. That game is insanely long, and I'm serious. I'm like 50 hours long, and I'm not even halfway through. Apparently, I'm just how. And
it sounds like this one show called One Piece that just never ends.
And I'm also gonna start working on a little town hero once it arrives for me on Wednesday next week.
Nice. So
we have which is a new IP from Game Freak, which, in case you don't know, that company, it's the company behind the Pokemon games.
Yeah, and they've really been focusing on Game Freak mostly for the entirety of their career. So
it's
really awesome
that they're branching out.
Yes, Pokemon. Yes, that's what I said, right?
Yeah, you're focusing on the Game Freak.
Well, Game Freak focuses on Game Freak, and Game Freaks.
But yeah, I have I work on a lot of video game reviews, and hopefully I also will have managed. I also have the time to fix a Gemini Man review since I'm watching that movie tomorrow, or should I say later today, from my time zone's point of view.
Very, very nice. Very, very nice. So, guys, like we said, we always like to talk anime here, and we want to talk about the anime that you're interested in. If there's any anime that you want us to cover here on the show, please reach out to us at Amateur Otaku RTF or send us an email at amateurOtakuRTF@gmail.com. We definitely want to hear from you guys and give you more of the content that you are looking for. Thank you for joining us at the Amateur Otaku podcast. We really had a great time. Have it awesome, guys. Peace.